Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the 23rd online lecture of the course Engineering Thermodynamics. In the previous lecture, we studied about refrigeration cycles and Joule-Thomson coefficient. In today's lecture, we will study the concept of exergy. Other names for exergy are availability and it is also sometimes known as available energy. So let me first introduce the concept of energy with the help of an example. So let us consider that we are having some tank. Okay, and this tank is filled with some fuel. And what we are having over here, we are having some burner over here. Okay, and with the help of this burner, we are generating some flame over here. So this is nothing but this is a flame of fuel, and in this surrounding we are having nothing but our air. And let us consider this entire system is enclosed inside some boundary. Okay, so this is the boundary of this system, and let us consider that this is nothing but an isolated system. So if it is an isolated, so boundary of this system will be nothing but uh, I can say that this is the boundary of the system and this is nothing but as insulated boundary. So it means it doesn't allow any transfer of or exchange of heat with the surrounding. So this is my situation number one, where we will be considering that say our entire tank is now full with the fuel. Then we will be considering the second situation where we have burnt certain amount of fuel and now our tank is partially filled with the fuel. So once again here also we are having combustion process which is continuously happening and we are getting certain flame, and here also we are having once again the boundary of this system. Okay, so this is my state number 2. Then the third condition we will be considering where once again we are having the same system, but now let us consider that entire fuel has actually burned. So now there is no flame because we are having no fuel inside the tank, and this once again because boundary we have not changed, so boundary of the system is exactly same. So this is stage number 3. So at point number 3 now we are not having any fuel, so no fuel remaining. And at point number 2 we are having some partial amount of fuel in the tank because certain amount of fuel has already burned. Okay, so this is the physical situation. Now if you consider these three different scenarios, what you will be finding in all these three different scenarios we are having nothing but same amount of energy. How? So let me just explain. So what we were having initially, we were having this tank which was full with certain amount of fuel. Okay, and so obviously what will be happening, this fuel will be having certain amount of calorific value, and this energy over here which is stored inside the fuel, that will be nothing but in the form of chemical energy of the fuel. So over here our entire energy is nothing but in the form of chemical energy of the fuel. In second scenario, what we are having partially filled tank. So it means we are having certain amount of chemical energy, and then apart from that what we are having, because this much portion of the fuel has already ignited, so because of that certain amount of heat has already released. So that amount of heat has nothing but increased the temperature of the surrounding air. So it means say if earlier we were having some Ti temperature, now the new temperature will be nothing but over here Ti plus say some delta T1. Okay, so some finite amount of temperature rise of the air has taken place. So it means now we are having the energy in the form of chemical energy and certain amount of energy has been converted into the heat energy. So here we are having nothing but chemical energy plus heat, or this heat is nothing but in the form of internal energy of the air molecule. So obviously whatever the surrounding air we are having, its temperature has increased. So it means ultimately the internal energy of this air, surrounding air, has increased. Okay, and then we are having the third situation where we were not having any fuel available over here. However, because the boundary of the system is nothing but insulated, So whatever the heat has been released because of the combustion of the fuel, that entire heat has been absorbed by the surrounding air. So let us consider that because of this heat, temperature of the gas has become now T final, which is nothing but initial temperature plus say delta T at some finite increase of temperature has happened. So in this situation now, if we see, the total energy of the fuel is nothing but in the form of its internal energy. Okay. So if you try to see over here in these three different scenarios, because our boundary of the system is perfectly insulated, so you will be finding that overall energy content of the individual three different situations is nothing but identical. However, the form of energy has changed. So whatever the energy we are having in point number 1, we will be having same amount of energy at point number 2, and similarly at point number 3 also we will be having the total energy content of the system as exactly same. Okay. However, if you try to see, now the form of energy is entirely different. So it means over here you can see that we are having three different conditions of the system, and at these three different conditions of the system we are having same amount of energy available. Okay. However, if you would like to convert this energy into some equivalent amount of work, you will be finding that over here you are having entire chemical energy available. Okay, so obviously in this first type of system we will be having nothing but more potential, or I can say out of all these three, here we will be having the highest potential available for conversion of energy into work. And as we will be moving towards the second situation, we will be finding that over here some potential of energy conversion into the work has actually decreased, and similarly we will be finding in third case the potential for conversion into work will be lowest. So it means that if we are defining the energy content of any system, so here you can see that in these three different situations we are having the same energy content of this system. So it means if we are defining the energy content of the system, that is not sufficient enough to give the full details or the maximum potential which is available in that system to convert into the work. So it means we require certain additional property to specify the highest or maximum potential of work which is available with some amount of energy. Okay, so the property which is used to define that energy content, which that is something which is known as exergy. Okay, so what we define, exergy is nothing but a property of the system, or it is a property of system and surrounding combination. So how it is considering surrounding also, so that I will just explain in the coming slides. But what is the basic definition of exergy is that it is nothing but it represents the maximum potential available for work. So if we are having any system, in that system how much maximum potential is available for work, that is something specified with the help of value exergy. Okay. So now this basic understanding of exergy I think should be clear to all of you from this example. The only thing we have to understand at this moment, that we may have the same energy content with different type of systems. However, whatever the potential of that energy to convert it into useful work, that may vary. Okay, so the maximum potential of the system is something which can be determined with the help of any quantity that is known as exergy of the system. Okay, now let us try to see the concept of exergy one by one. Okay, so before that, let me introduce the concept of dead state and surroundings, different types of surroundings. So what we do when we are having the properties of the system other than its surroundings, then obviously system is having some potential to undergo through some thermodynamic process. However, if the properties of the system are exactly identical to that of the properties of its surroundings, in that case what we will be calling, we can say that the system has reached nothing but its dead state. Why dead state? Because over here if you see pressure and temperature of system, so if I consider this enclosed vessel as nothing but my system and outside as my surrounding, so you can see over here the temperature and pressure for system and surrounding both are same. So it means the system is not having potential. If pressure is same, it is not having any potential for displacement of the boundary. Okay, so it means it cannot do any boundary work or displacement work, and if its temperature is same, it cannot undergo through heat transfer process. And another important thing, whatever we are considering in this course on engineering thermodynamics, that we are having nothing but our working mediums as inert. So it means we are not having any chemical potential available for the reactions to take place. Okay, so chemically also we are actually in equilibrium. So when all these properties of the system are reaching to the properties of the surroundings, then the system will be in perfect thermodynamic equilibrium with its surroundings, and the state corresponding to such a situation is something which is known as the dead state of the system. And particularly when we define the dead state of the system, we use subscript 0 to specify state of the system corresponding to dead state. Okay. Another important point I would like to highlight over here about the surrounding. So already we know that anything which is outside the boundary of the system, that we call as surrounding. Now we will be introducing two more concepts. One is known as immediate surrounding and another is known as environment. So basically what happens, for example, if we take a hot potato which is having temperature of 70 degrees Celsius, and if we place it in our open atmosphere, say if we are placing inside some room, so what will be happening? Obviously, because our room is nothing but a large volume, so when the potato will be exchanging the heat with the room, then also there will not be any change in temperature of the room. So that is something, our room is nothing but, we can consider in this situation as a thermal reservoir. Okay, so but when this potato is actually placed inside the surroundings, what will be happening? While it will be exchanging the heat with surrounding, there will be certain immediate portion which is very close to the boundary of the system, where we will be finding that temperature will be nothing but greater in comparison to the overall surrounding temperature. Okay, so what we define, whatever the region of influence is there across the periphery of the system, that immediate region of influence is something which is known as immediate surrounding of the system, and anything which is away from the immediate surrounding and is not influenced by the system, that is something which is known as environment. Okay, and the combination of this system and surrounding is something which is known as the overall surroundings of the system. Okay, now over here I would like to define one process. So let me consider that we are having PV diagram, and we are having some piston cylinder device, and let us consider that inside this piston cylinder device we are having some pressurized gas which is having pressure P and temperature T. Okay, and outside surrounding pressure is nothing but P naught and surrounding temperature is nothing but T naught. So what will be happening? Obviously this gas will be actually expanding the piston, because pressure inside the cylinder is more in comparison to the surrounding pressure. Okay, so finally on the PV diagram we will be finding that our pressure will be increasing and temperature will be decreasing. Okay, so let me just give the subscripts P1 and T1 for the initial state of the system. So let me just represent over here, this is nothing but my point number 1. Okay, now if I have to determine that what amount of work I am obtaining from this system, if it is happening in a reversible manner, that work will be nothing but function of the path, whatever the path this process is taking place. And obviously when this path the process is taking place, if it is changing say from some thermodynamic state 1 to say final thermodynamic state number 2. So then obviously we have to do this integration of PDV work within the limits 1 to 2. So it means our work will be nothing but the function of path, and it will be the function of initial state and final state of the system while the thermodynamic process is happening. Okay, so one important point we have to determine over here, that while the system will be doing work, if system is moving in an reversible or quasi-static way, so we will be finding that work is nothing but equal to integration of PDV from point number 1 to point number 2. Okay, now if we consider that this piston is expanding, so obviously there will be certain maximum limit for the expansion of the piston above which it cannot expand. So what will be that range? So if I am defining over here, say we are not having any mechanical constraint, we are having say infinite long cylinder. So it means there will not be any mechanical constraint which will be stopping the motion of the piston. So obviously piston will be having possibility to go for large amount of displacement. Okay, but obviously while the piston will be displacing, what will be happening inside the piston, pressure and temperature will be decreasing. Okay, and obviously when this expansion process will go for longer duration, we will be finding certain thermodynamic situation when the pressure and temperature of this gas within the piston cylinder arrangement will be becoming identical to that of the pressure and temperature of the surrounding, because that is the maximum potential available for expansion of the piston. Okay, so it means that if we have to determine the maximum possible work, so what I want to point it out over here, that if we have to determine the maximum possible work output during this expansion process, so what we have to do, we have to allow the expansion of this piston is nothing but till the dead state of the system. Okay, so what will be happening, say earlier I had taken some intermediate state number 2, but still if I say that the pressure of P2 is greater in comparison to P0, so obviously there we will be having certain more potential for expansion of the piston, and finally the expansion of the piston will be stopping when the pressure will be becoming identical to that of the surrounding pressure. Okay, so it means one point is clear, that if we have to determine the maximum possible work output from any system, what we have to do, we have to allow the system to reach its dead state. Okay, so it means that if we have to estimate the amount of exergy which is associated with an system, that amount of exergy will be nothing but representing the maximum possible work output that we can achieve till our system is reaching to the dead state. Okay, so it means once the system has reached the dead state, it is not having any further potential for the for generating the work or to undergo through the thermodynamic process, because after reaching to the dead state, our system will be reaching nothing but thermodynamic equilibrium condition. Okay. Okay, so now let us first consider the exergy associated with kinetic energy and potential energy. Okay, so what we are doing, we are saying that energy and exergy are two different terms. Okay, so that we have seen from our first example, that we may have same amount of energy available at different conditions. However, the exergy content available will be different for individual conditions. Okay. So let me first start with the basic definition of energy. While in any thermodynamic system we specify the energy, energy comprises of following components. So one of the very first component is nothing but our internal energy. Okay, and then next part is P into V, and P into V is something which is associated with the flow energy, or we also call it as flow work. Then we are having nothing but kinetic energy, m into v square by 2, and then we are having nothing but potential energy, so m G into Z. Okay, so this is my kinetic energy and this is my potential energy. Now out of these, if you try to see, these first two terms are nothing but these are dependent upon the thermodynamic state of the system. Okay, and these last two quantities, these are nothing but these depends upon the physical state of the system. Okay, whether our system is having certain velocity or it is placed at how far from the with reference to the ground position. Okay, so that is something which we are having over here. So it means over here, if you see, these first two quantities, these are nothing but associated with thermodynamic, and last two quantities are associated with the physical state of the system. So obviously what we are having, this kinetic energy and potential energy is something which does not have much to do with the thermodynamic process of the system. However, in other sense, these two energies are nothing but represents the mechanical work output. Okay, so these are representing nothing but mechanical work output of the system. So for example, one situation we are having, say we are having a dam, and inside this dam we are having certain amount of water. Okay, and this water is with reference to the ground level. Say we are having Z is the head difference between the lower and higher water levels, and if we are using certain turbine and we are allowing the flow to happen through a pipe, and this flow is actually striking over the blades of the turbine and then it is extracted at the outlet. Okay, so ultimately if we are considering that the process is happening in a reversible manner, it means if we are not having any losses due to the friction, okay, or any type of losses if we don't consider, in that case what will be happening, whatever the maximum amount of work we can extract from this system, that will be nothing but equal to the potential energy available in the system. So it means this kinetic energy and potential energy are the two quantities which directly are identical to that of exergy of the system. Okay, so it means for this potential and kinetic energy, what we will be having, whatever the energy content we will be having which is associated with the physical state of the system, that will be nothing but identical to that of the exergy content of the system. However, if we talk about internal energy and flow work, here what will be happening, here the thermodynamic state of the system and the type of the process will be actually governing whether we can get maximum amount of energy can be converted into work or not. Okay, so these two quantities are something which are depending upon many other factors. Okay, so these type of factors we will try to see in the subsequent slides. So let me now start with the definition of reversible work and irreversibility. So these will be useful while studying the concept of exergy. So what we are having over here, we are having nothing but a piston cylinder system. The initial volume of this cylinder is V1 and the final volume of this cylinder is nothing but V2. And let us consider that inside this we are having pressure P. Okay, and what we are having over here, with the help of these dotted lines, what I have done, I have just plotted the immediate surroundings of this system. And obviously if we are considering outside as atmospheric air, so it will be having pressure nothing but equal to that of the atmospheric pressure P naught. Okay, so now we know from the basic definition of the work, because over here what is happening, the boundary of the system is moving. So we know the basic definition of the reversible work is nothing but equal to integral of P into dV. And over here, as if we consider okay, that how much is the volume is changing, because we are having expansion process from 1 to 2. So if we consider for the system, so for system what is happening, dV of system is nothing but equal to V2 minus V1, and volume of the system is basically increasing. And if we consider our immediate surrounding also as some fixed boundary, so what basically we are doing, we are decreasing the volume of the surrounding by the equivalent amount. So it means V2 minus V1 is nothing but equal to delta V of surroundings. Okay, so it means the volume of surroundings has decreased by the equivalent amount by the same amount as there is increase in the volume of the system. Okay, so ultimately if you see what is happening, this piston is basically expanding, and this piston is expanding against the surrounding pressure, which is P naught. Okay, and we are considering that the pressure of surrounding is not changing. Okay, so it means while this piston is moving, it is doing certain amount of surrounding work. Okay, and that surrounding work will be nothing but equal to P naught into V2 minus V1, because V2 minus V1 is the change in volume of the surrounding, and that change has happened under some constant pressure P naught. So it means what is happening while this system is doing work, this much work which is identical to that of delta W surrounding, this much work has been consumed by the surrounding. So ultimately if we have to calculate the useful amount of work, so useful amount of work, finally we will be getting nothing but equal to whatever the reversible work system has produced minus whatever the work has been consumed by the surroundings. So let me write delta W surroundings over here. Okay, so it means if we try to see over here what is happening from if we consider that we are having the perfectly reversible situation, then we will be finding that we will be having more amount of work. However, in actual practice what is happening, surrounding is consuming work at certain rate. So that work if we are subtracting, then we will be having useful work only the difference of reversible work and surrounding work. Okay, so it means we can define something which is known as irreversibility. Okay, so this irreversibility is nothing but it represents the rate at which our work or maximum potential of work is actually being destroyed. So irreversibility will be nothing but equal to reversible work minus useful work. Okay, so this point should be clear, because over here if you see, we were getting actually from the expansion of the piston this PdV work, if we consider in a reversible manner, we were getting this much magnitude. However, some fraction of this work has been consumed by the surroundings. Okay, because the compression of the surrounding is actually happening. So that portion is delta W surrounding. So it means in actual practice, if we have to get the useful work from this system, that will be nothing but equal to difference of reversible and the surroundings work. Okay, so whatever the losses we are having, generally we consider that loss of work is something which is associated because of the irreversibility. So that's why if we have to define irreversibility, our definition of irreversibility will be nothing but equal to reversible work, which is nothing but represents the maximum possible useful work. So this is nothing but maximum possible useful work if process is occurring or happening in reversible manner. Okay, so if process is happening in reversible manner, then whatever the maximum potential for work we are having, that will be nothing but our reversible work. However, in actual practice, what we will be finding, that we will be having less work in comparison to that of the maximum possible useful work. So the difference of these two quantities will be nothing but our irreversibility. Okay, however, this useful work is also nothing but maximum potential of work which is available. Okay, so in actual practice, our actual work even may be less than the useful work. So this is also nothing but maximum potential of useful work available. Okay, so this is also maximum, but this first one is maximum when the process is happening in an irreversible manner. Okay, so this type of definition will be applicable nothing but for the work producing devices, because in case of work producing devices, what will be happening, reversible work will be the highest, and useful work will be less in comparison to reversible work. However, if we have to define the same for work consuming devices, then what will be happening? We all know that nothing but work consuming devices consumes less amount of work while they are operated in reversible manner. So it means for work consuming devices, useful work will be more in comparison to the reversible work. So over here the definition of irreversibility will be actually reversing. Okay, so now from this concept we are having very another important concept which is called as second law efficiency. Okay, so let us first discuss this with the help of an example. So what we are having in this example, we are having one source and we are having sink. So in first case source temperature is 600 and the temperature of sink is 300, and we are operating a heat engine in between the source and sink, and let us consider that heat engine is giving us thermal efficiency of 30%. Okay, and in second situation we are having 1000 Kelvin temperature of the source and the temperature of the sink is same, and over here the thermal efficiency of the second heat engine is nothing but 30%. Okay, so ultimately as we know the definition of thermal efficiency is nothing but equal to net work output divided by amount of heat supplied. So if we consider that we are having identical situations or these both A and B cycles are operating under the same thermal efficiency, so in that case we will be finding that from both we will be getting nothing but same amount of net work output. Okay, however, if you try to see over here in this situation what you are having, for first case you are having the temperature limits between 600 and 300, and in the second case it is in between 1000 and 300. So if you consider the Carnot efficiency or the maximum possible efficiency of this cycle, that will be nothing but equal to 1 minus TL by TH. So it means now if you try to see the maximum thermal efficiency of first cycle is nothing but equal to 50%, and the maximum thermal efficiency of second cycle is nothing but 70%. Why it is 70%? Because temperature of the source is actually increasing over here. Okay, so now if you consider what is happening in actual practice, you are getting same amount of efficiency from both the cycles. Okay, so from both the cycles we are having 30% efficiency. So it means if you are giving say Q1 or any amount of heat you are supplying, 30% of that heat is actually being converted into the work. However, if you compare over here, so for this cycle, the maximum amount of work you can convert is nothing but 50%. So maximum amount of heat in work you can convert up to 50%, and in second scenario you can convert this up to 70%. Okay. So if you see just only from the first definition of the efficiency, it appears to us that both the machines are operating at nothing but same performance conditions. However, if you consider their maximum available potential, you can find out that first one is having a maximum potential of 50%, out of which it is giving us the 30% efficiency. However, in second case, we are having maximum potential 70%, out of which it is only giving us the 30%. So if we have to compare that which of these two machines is actually more efficient, we have to nothing but determine its second law efficiency. Okay, so what we do, we define second law efficiency as nothing but our actual efficiency of our system divided by maximum possible efficiency. I can say maximum possible efficiency, or particularly for the heat engines I can say the Carnot efficiency. So if I define the second law efficiency of first system, it is nothing but coming out to be how much? We are having actual efficiency as 30 and we are having maximum possible efficiency as 60. So ultimately it is nothing but equal to 60%. And similarly, if we define the second law efficiency for system B, so it is coming out to be 30 divided by 70, and finally it will be nothing but equal to 43%. So from here we can see that the second law efficiency of first system is actually high in comparison to that of the second law efficiency of the second system. So finally we can say that the performance of system number A is nothing but better in comparison to that of the performance of system number B. Okay. So this is something which we can conclude from nothing but second law efficiency. Okay, so let me just give you one practical example. For example, if you go to market and you want to purchase one refrigerator, say, or you want to purchase one air conditioner for your home application. So what you will be finding generally when you will be going to market, actually you will be getting refrigeration in terms of refrigerator in terms of tons of refrigeration. Say you want to purchase a refrigerator which is having a capacity of 3 tons of refrigeration. So what will be happening if you consider one refrigerator which is having high second law efficiency? So what will be happening in case of high second law efficiency? The refrigerator will be consuming nothing but your less work input to give the same amount of refrigeration. Okay, so that's why whenever we purchase the refrigerator, you will be finding that in refrigerator we are having like different gradings. Sometimes we get 3-star refrigerator, sometimes we get 5-star refrigerators, 2-star refrigerators. So this star is nothing but represent that how much better is the performance of the refrigerator in terms of its energy consumption requirement. So it means if we are having a 5-star refrigerator, it will be requiring minimum amount of electricity in order to give us same amount of refrigeration in comparison to that of a 2-star refrigerator. Okay. So this is where the importance of second law efficiency is there. So from first law efficiency, actually the information about the system or about any device is not actually correct. Okay, so first law efficiency can mislead us. For example, here also you can see in both the systems we were having the same first law efficiency. However, if we compare in actual scenarios, this second system was utilizing only the 43% potential of its maximum available, and the first one was utilizing 60% potential of its maximum available. Okay, so that's why always second law efficiency tells us the exact information about the performance of the device. Now let me just further extend the definition of second law efficiency in terms of the work requirement. So as I have told you that it is nothing but equal to theta actual upon theta eta maximum. So eta actual is nothing but our actual work divided by amount of heat supplied, and maximum efficiency will be maximum work whenever the system is operated under same conditions. So it means we are having same amount of heat input. So finally we will be finding that second law efficiency is nothing but equal to actual amount of work done divided by maximum possible work done which we can achieve from a system. So this definition is something which is valid for the work producing devices, and if we are having work consuming devices, so for work consuming devices what will be happening? Obviously the reversible work will be less in comparison to that of the actual work. So for work consuming devices we will be finding second law efficiency as nothing but reversible work divided by actual work. Okay, so importance of second law efficiency already we have seen. It is nothing but represents the correct idea about the performance of any thermodynamic device. Okay, now let us consider study furthermore the concept of exergy. So what I will be doing now, I will be defining the exergy change of a system, and first we will define exergy change nothing but for a closed system. So what we have done over here, we are having nothing but a piston cylinder device, and let us consider that initial pressure and temperature were P and T, and finally this system is actually going to the dead state. So if it is going to dead state, obviously its pressure and temperature will be reaching to the surrounding pressure and temperature P0 and T0. Okay, and while this piston is displacing, say it is giving us delta WV amount of useful work, and while this process is happening, it is because its temperature is also more in comparison to the temperature of surrounding. So let us consider it is losing delta Q amount of heat. Okay, so from first law of thermodynamics, I can write that minus delta Q minus delta W will be nothing but equal to, because work is done by the system and heat is going out of the system. So this will be nothing but equal to change in internal energy of the system. Or I can say that my reversible work is nothing but equal to minus delta Q minus du of the system. Okay, and if I have to define over here the useful work done by this system, particularly during its expansion, so useful work will be nothing but equal to that of delta W reversible work, whatever we are doing, minus, because this piston is expanding against P naught boundary, so we will be having nothing but integration of P naught into dV. Okay, and this integration we will be having, and the limits of integration will be nothing but final state is corresponding to state number naught, and initial point is nothing but our P and T. Okay, so this is my definition of useful work. So if I substitute over here the value of reversible work from my previous equation, I will be ultimately finding that my useful displacement work is nothing but equal to minus delta Q minus du minus integration. Okay, or I need not to write integration now at this moment, because I am writing differential work delta W over here. So without integration I will be having only P naught into dV. Okay, so this is nothing but my useful work which we are obtaining during the expansion process. Okay, now our aim over here is nothing but to determine the exergy. Exergy represents nothing but maximum potential of work while the system is going through some thermodynamic state, and finally it is reaching to the dead state, and that process should happen in an reversible fashion. Okay, so while this heat transfer was happening, this delta Q, actually inside the system temperature was T and outside the temperature was T naught, and T was greater than T naught. So if we simply allow this heat transfer to happen to the surroundings, so what will be happening? We will be having some finite temperature difference through which this heat transfer is happening. So that's why our process will be nothing but irreversible. But when we are determining the exergy, as the basic definition of exergy says that we have to do the entire thermodynamic process is in an reversible manner. Okay, so that's why now what we want to do, we want to transfer this amount of heat from temperature T to surrounding temperature T naught, but we want to transfer this heat in an reversible manner. Okay, so if we want to do in a reversible manner, because we are having the uh, available heat at two different temperatures, so we can employ one reversible heat engine in between these two temperature limits. So we have considered one reversible heat engine, and this reversible heat engine is actually taking this delta Q amount of heat, and it is giving us, say, delta W He amount of work, and some amount of heat delta Q O it is actually rejecting. Okay, so finally, if we try to see over here what is happening, while this delta Q heat transfer has happened from the system, because this is our system which is under observation. Okay, so while this delta Q heat transfer was happening, during that time we have got certain amount of work done from this heat engine also, and obviously the maximum work done whatever we will be getting from this heat engine, that will be nothing but equal to the Carnot efficiency, which is 1 minus T naught by T times delta Q. Okay, so that is something which we will get. So as a whole, while this system has actually changed its state from P to P naught and T to T naught, actually we have got two types of work. One is displacement work, and another work we have got because we have to operate the system or the thermodynamic process in reversible manner, so we employed one heat engine, and because of that heat engine it made it possible to exchange heat delta Q with the surrounding in an reversible manner, and this process has given a certain amount of work also. Okay, so if I have to find out the total amount of work which I have obtained, or total amount of useful work whatever I have obtained, that will be nothing but equal to delta WU plus delta W which we are obtaining from heat engine. Okay, so ultimately I will be finding delta W total, so I am writing capital T over here for total. So delta WT I will be finding as nothing but 1 minus T naught by T into delta Q minus delta Q minus du minus P naught into dV. Okay, so this is something which we are getting from this useful work, which is a displacement part of the useful work. Okay, so over here if you see this delta Q will be cancelling, and we will be finding getting finally that minus T naught into delta Q by T minus du minus P naught into dV. Okay, so that is our nothing but total useful work we have obtained from this system. Okay, now if you see over here, while this system is transferring delta Q amount of heat to this heat engine, obviously what will be happening, there will be certain change in entropy of the system. Say ds is nothing but change in entropy of the system. So this ds will be nothing but equal to minus del Q by T, because this system is transferring heat at temperature T. So, and this heat is actually going out of the system. So that's why we will be having minus del Q by T. And as the heat transfer is taking place in reversible manner, so we will not be having any entropy generation over here. So it means whatever the previous equation for work we were having delta W T, there we were having one term. If you try to see over here, this T naught times del Q by T. So this del Q by T now I can replace with nothing but minus ds. So finally I will be getting that my total work done is nothing but equal to T naught times ds minus du minus P naught into dV. Okay, so if I have to determine the total work, so my total work will be nothing but equal to integration of del W T, and the initial stage is corresponding to P and T, and final stage is nothing but represents the naught. So over here we will be finding that T naught is a constant value. Integration of ds will be S naught minus S minus of, here in case of du we will be finding u naught minus u, and for P naught into dV, obviously P naught is once again a constant quantity. We will be finding P naught times V naught minus V. Okay, after integration. So I can say that total work I am getting after integration is nothing but my u minus u naught, okay, minus, or I can say plus P naught times V minus V naught, okay, minus T naught times S minus S naught. So this is the total useful work, or the total maximum work which we are getting from this system. Okay. Now over here, if you try to see this T naught into S generation part is nothing but is having negative sign. So it means this much work is actually associated with the irreversibilities. So in the total useful work we will be having this is the total work minus whatever irreversibility we are having associated with the system. Okay, so it means this amount of work is something which represents the total maximum potential. So I can call is this as nothing but my exergy of this closed system. Okay, so this exergy of the closed system, if I have to say represent in between two thermodynamic states 1 and 2, and if I have to find out the exergy change of the system, so in that case what will be happening, for first thermodynamic state obviously my exergy will be, so generally for the exergy of the closed system we use symbol phi. So my phi 1 will be, phi 1 is nothing but total maximum potential of work which is available corresponding to state number 1. So that will be nothing but U1 minus U0 plus P0 into V1 minus V0 and minus T0 times S1 minus S0. Okay, and if I have to determine at any other thermodynamic state 2, so at that point we will be finding that it will be nothing but U2 minus U0 plus P0 into V2 minus V0 minus T0 times S2 minus S0. Okay, so if I have to find out the change in exergy between two thermodynamic states, that will be nothing but equal to phi 1 minus phi 2. So finally I can write simply as U1 minus U2 plus P0 into V1 minus V2 minus T0 times S1 minus S2. Okay, so what is basically happening whenever a system is in dead state? Okay, so if the system is in dead state, at that point what will be happening? The exergy of the system will be equal to 0. So corresponding to dead state, we always have 0 exergy, and when the system will be moving away from the dead state, obviously we will be having certain amount of exergy. Okay, so that's why exergy of a closed system, okay, so exergy phi of a closed system will be always greater than equal to 0, because when the system will be away from the dead state, obviously it can undergo through certain thermodynamic process, so it will be having certain potential available for doing some work. Okay, and value of exergy, if we have to determine at different thermodynamic states, always our reference state will be same, which will be nothing but corresponding to the dead state. Okay, so that's why when we are calculating the change of exergy, simply if we are doing because for both the state number 1 or state number 2, exergy is estimated with reference to the same dead state, so that's why we can simply take the difference of properties to determine the exergy. Okay, now let us try to see one extension of closed system. So now instead of closed system, what we are having a flowing stream. Okay, for example, we see in case of our steady flow devices, when we are having say a turbine, in a turbine, what basically happens, it will be having certain amount of flowing fluid, and obviously we know that flowing fluid is having some associated flow work, and that flow work is nothing but equal to P times V. And as I have already told you that while the fluid will be flowing, we will be having different parcels of the fluid, and whatever the parcel of the fluid we are having in upstream, this parcel will be actually displacing the parcel of the fluid which is there in the downstream. Okay, so obviously ultimately if we consider that outside we are having atmospheric pressure, so when this parcel of the fluid will be moving, it will be nothing but displacing against some surrounding pressure. So if we have to determine the exergy associated with flow work, so that will be nothing but equal to P minus P naught times V. Okay, so if we now calculate the value of phi, which is nothing but U minus U naught plus P naught times V minus V naught minus T naught times S minus S naught. So this much was when we were having the closed system. So it means when we were not having any flow components. So this was for no flow part, and when we are having the flow part, obviously with the flow we will be having certain additional energy which will be requiring in order to maintain the flow of the stream. So we have to now add the flow part over here, and this flow part will be nothing but equal to P minus P naught times V. So this is corresponding to the flow part of the exergy. So if we just solve these pressure terms, finally we will be finding that our exergy for flowing stream, so here exergy I am representing for flowing stream. Okay, so for flowing stream we will be having nothing but flow part plus non-flow part. So we will be finding U minus U naught plus P naught V minus P naught V naught minus T naught times S minus S naught plus P into V minus P naught times V. So over here if you see this P naught V and this P naught V over, okay, so this P naught V and this P naught V over here is nothing but cancelling out, and what we are finally getting as nothing but U plus PV minus, we are having U naught plus P naught V naught minus T naught times S minus S naught. Okay, so finally what we are getting for when we are having a flowing stream associated with the system, we will be finding that exergy for change for flowing system will be nothing but equal to H minus H naught. So I have to write over here capital H because we are writing the overall quantity minus T naught times S minus S naught. Okay, so this is something which is the exergy associated with the flowing stream. Okay, so what I will do now, I will stop at this point and we will try to conclude the concept of exergy in our next lecture.